Hey guys, this is Karan and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to showcase a watch that is so much more than just a name. Today I talk about the Girard Perregaux 1966 Worldwide Time Control, or WW.TC for short. Before I proceed, however, I must give a huge shout out to all my friends, members and fellow administrators on Watch Enthusiasts India, India's fastest growing private social media platform for watch collectors. You can find the link to join this group in the description box below. Also, you can subscribe to my channel, leave a comment to this video because your encouragement means a lot to me. You can also follow me on Instagram to participate in my daily watch journey. Now, what comes to mind when you hear the name Girard Perregaux? A connoisseur of wristwatches might start talking about bridges and tourbillons. A casual collector might even recognize them as the makers of that Royal Oak look-alike watch. An uninformed newbie might even say, who? A maison based out of La Chaux-de-France in 1791, Girard Perregaux is the only manufacturer to have operated continuously for the last 230 years and have succeeded in making themselves a true manufacturer with everything made in-house, and I mean everything. From elaborate jeweled cases to elaborate jeweled movements, they have done it all. While their beginnings may have been that of a humble cottage industry, they are now so much more than that. Their major accomplishments include the most beautiful three bridges decoration on the main plate and over the tourbillon. The bridges are double-pronged arrowheads, usually in gold and polished to perfection, and this symbol is also the brand's logo. Huge demand for these lovely bridges led to them being crafted in steel over the decades, and the latest incorporation came in 2020 in the form of the free bridge, where polished steel parts coated with diamond-like carbon take center stage. If I were in the market for an affordable high horology watch, then the free bridge would be my first choice from the house of Girard Perregaux. Don't let the complicated appearance of the classic GP scare you away, because they also have the ever-popular Laureato collection in their repertoire. The original Laureato with the octagonal bezel and integrated bracelet with alternating polished and brushed links was powered by quartz movements well into the 1980s. The Laureato was GP's answer to the burgeoning demand for an everyday sports watch that could be worn by everyone. Laureato is the Italian word for graduate, and as the name suggests, this watch was targeted at young people. Inspired by Gerald Genta, the Laureato line was intermittently made with many complications and decorations, but it became a regular feature in GP's catalog in 2016. Since then, it has seen beautiful variants in steel and precious metals, and with many complications like a simple date, an in-house chronograph, and even a tourbillon with the quintessential bridge. Coming closer to the subject of today's showcase, the 1966 series of watches in GP's catalog are meant to be understated everyday watches, with many variants to choose from. One of those simple yet complicated, luxurious yet highly useful watches is the Worldwide Time Control, or the WW.TC. Let us explore it in detail. This huge, humongous box on the outside has the brand's logo on top. Inside is a big and heavy wooden box, burled with impeccable finish. The projection of luxury begins right from the outside with Girard Perregaux. Looking at this box and presentation, one knows they are getting their money's worth. Underneath is the user manual. Now let's open this box and see what is inside. Beautiful watch there, but let's circle back to it. Underneath is the warranty card. Right, let's put all of this away and focus on this lovely watch. Measuring a very variable 40 millimeters across with 46 millimeter lug to lug and only 12 millimeters thick, the watch is an understated beauty. It is more a callback to the mid-century classic design with its curved case and short lugs. There are no unsightly flat surfaces here, and everything is polished to a fine finish. Like I said, Girard Perregaux makes premium products, and this watch is a prime example. Let me show you how it wears on my 7.5-inch wrist. As you can see, it wears small and slim. It will easily dress down over the weekend, but its dress wash qualities are paramount. The lugs curve downwards, and that helps in maintaining a thin profile on the wrist. This profile is aided by this lovely and extremely comfortable bracelet, completely polished on the fitted curved end links and flowing all the way down to the clasp. The 9-link bracelet conforms beautifully to the wrist. If there was a small thing I would change is that I would add a push button butterfly clasp rather than the friction clasp currently available. But then that would add a lot of thickness underneath the wrist, and that in turn would go against the beauty and design parameters of this striking watch. It is simply a nitpick from my side. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the current setup. And under the bracelet through the sapphire case back, one can see the in-house caliber GP03300, which is a 32 jewel automatic self-winding movement with a 46-hour power reserve. The movement is beautifully decorated with blue screws and Coste de Genève finishing on the base plate and rotor. Coming around to the business end of the watch, let's talk about this lovely execution of the world timer complication. There is a domed sapphire crystal on top with generous application of anti-reflective coating, and when seen straight on, one can't even make out the crystal, laying total emphasis on this beautifully proportioned and symmetrical dial. Everything is in stark contrasting colors here. The pearly white dial has a very fine eggshell-like texture when seen up close. Time is displayed clearly by the manufacturer's signature leaf-shaped hands in polished steel finish, which is also matched by the slender applied indices at 12, 3 and 9. At the 6 o'clock position, we see a small seconds display, and the small signature leaf-shaped running second hand takes a lovely shade of blue because of careful heat treatment. The rest of the hour indices are painted onto the dial in thin, contrasting black lines. Around the time display, there is a unidirectional rotating 24-hour ring, which is clearly split into white and black halves, which roughly denote the anti-meridian and the post-meridian, or the AM and PM halves of the day. The crescent moon and the sun are denoted at midnight and noon respectively, in case things weren't clear with the rotating ring. The most prominent aspect of the dial is the outermost bidirectional rotating city ring. It marks 24 cities around the world, and each denotes one of the prominent 24 time zone in 1 hour increments. The crown on the 3 o'clock side is used for setting the time, and the 9 o'clock crown moves the city ring. Both are screw-down crowns, and the watch has a water resistance of 30 meters, which is fine for the occasional splash of water, but I won't recommend swimming or showering with the watch on. Now, before I move on to explain how this watch works, let me give you a brief primer on how GMT watches are used to keep track of time in multiple time zones. The first such watch was a Rolex GMT Master developed for Pan Am pilots who wanted to switch time zones on their watches on the fly. I don't have that watch, but I do have this wonderful GMT watch by Oris, the Carrisford Reef Limited Edition GMT. Now, this is a complication that uses 4 hands instead of the regular 3. The 4th hand, which is the GMT hand, completes one full rotation in 24 hours and is hence maintained as the home time. Now, to keep track of time in different time zones, one can manipulate the hour hand, which jumps backwards and forwards in 1 hour increments and can be set to whichever new time zone one finds themselves in. In some GMT watches, it is the hour hand that is set to home time, and the other time zone can be tracked with the GMT hand, which jumps around in 1 hour increments. For example, suppose I reside in London and the local time is 10 past 10 in the morning. So I will pull out the crown to the outermost position and set the 24 hours hand time to that time, which is 10 past 10 in the morning. At this point, the hours hand is moving in sync with the GMT hand. Right. Now suppose I fly to Athens, which is 2 hours ahead of London. So by pulling out the crown to the middle position and making the hour hand jump forward in 2 increments to mark the local time in Athens, now my GMT watch keeps time simultaneously in two time zones. Similarly, if I were traveling to New York, which is 4 hours behind London, then I would set the time to 10 past 6 in the morning. Then there is the 24-hour bezel, which is usually bidirectional in most professional GMT watches. Under normal circumstances, one need not move this bezel if they want to limit timekeeping to 2 time zones. But once this bidirectional bezel is moved, it can help keep track of 3 or even 4 time zones if you are up for some quick mental mathematics. That is how pilots used to keep track of time in multiple time zones on their daily intercontinental flights. It is all just a smidge complicated, but gets the job done wonderfully. Now, the other way, and frankly the simpler way that does not need excessive mathematical gymnastics, is the world timer. In this complication, there is no 4th hand. Instead, the 24-hour ring moves in an anti-clockwise direction and completes one full rotation in 24 hours. Let me show you how it works. With the 9 o'clock crown, I will set my home city to, say, London. Now let me screw this crown back in. Okay. With the 3 o'clock crown, I will set the local time to 10 past 10 in the morning as my home time. So far so good, right? Now observe the magic. Suppose I want to know the time right now in Dubai. All I have to do is follow the city ring to where Dubai is. Simply read the time of the 24-hour ring. If it is 10 past 10 in the morning in London, then it is 10 past 2 in the afternoon in Dubai. Similarly, in New York, it is 10 past 5 in the morning and 10 past 6 in the evening in Hong Kong. Truly, telling time in 24 different time zones could not be easier. This is the simple beauty of world timer wristwatches. While I'm all for the presence of a date window on my watches, I'm glad there isn't any on this watch. I wouldn't want this perfect symmetry to be disturbed in any way. In a world that is constantly screaming the time at you, especially while traveling, this watch is the cleanest way to tell time around the world without losing your bearings. The hype-chasing hipster next to you on the flight will still be frowning at his GMT master and fiddling with the jumping hours and rotating bezels, while you will be well on your way to some sweet duty-free shopping with the world's time readily available at a glance on your wrist. Now, to close out this video, let me quickly address some of the questions our group member asked of me. First was, why don't world timers and GMT watches ever cover India? Or why isn't India mentioned in the city ring? Well, India unfortunately falls under the odd half-hour time zone. We are ahead of GMT time by 5 hours and 30 minutes, and to incorporate that into any GMT or world timer watch, the graduation of time zones would have to be 48 instead of 24. Now, not only is that extremely complicated to execute, it is also extremely cost prohibitive. Only a handful of watches have managed that. One of them being the ultra expensive but so very classy Vacheron Constantin Patrimony traditional world timer. And the Oris Pro Pilot Caliber 114 does it too in the relatively affordable spectrum.
Next, I was asked, why did you not focus on the Laureato? I believe Girard Perregaux has so much more to offer than just the Laureato. It is a sad state of affairs in the industry that a watchmaker, a manufacturer no less, is recognized mostly by one line of watches from their extensive catalog. That too because it is often confused with another hyped up popular alternative. Sure, the Laureato has its own impassioned following and can rumble with the best out there, but to me personally, it's a boring watch, as is the alternative that people compare it to. I may still showcase the Laureato at some point in the future just to see what this hoo-ha is all about. But until then, there are many other brands and watches that deserve my attention. I was also asked, what are your views about Girard Perregaux as a brand? It is easy to dismiss the brand and their watches because not much is spoken about them online. You will rarely find connoisseurs and collectors discussing this brand and their watches with as much fervor as they do the mid-tier and entry-level Swiss brands that generate social media hype. It's when the hobby and the collectors take a few steps above the norm is when they truly learn to appreciate Girard Perregaux as a brand. Girard Perregaux is high horology. They are innovators, they are master craftsmen, and they have been plying their trade uninterrupted for the past 230 years. Any company concentrating on perfecting their single-minded output for that length of time is one that makes world-class products. And lastly, should I buy this watch? Are you a frequent traveler who crosses time zones like most people change pajamas? Do you plan your adventures on different continents? Do you like watches that can be worn on any occasion and offer simple and useful features? Most importantly, do you want to experience high horology at affordable prices after being swamped by the mediocrity of mid-tier Swiss brands? If you answered yes to any of those questions, this watch is for you. Sure, it is not a cheap watch, but Girard Perregaux does not make cheap watches. The steel watch on steel bracelet comes in at rupees 10,98,900 or the equivalent of US dollars 14,400. The same steel watch on an alligator leather strap with a fold-over clasp comes in at 10,40,000 or the equivalent of US dollars 13,500. There is also a very beautiful 18-karat rose gold variant which comes on an alligator strap with a fold-over clasp again, and that clocks in at a whopping rupees 20 lakhs 13,000, which is the equivalent of US dollars 26,300. Keeping those numbers in mind, one certainly has a lot of options to choose from if they're seriously considering a world timer watch. The Frederic Constant World Timer is a much cheaper option at rupees 2,95,000 or US dollars 4,200. The Mont Blanc Orbis Terrarium is another colorful option at rupees 5 lakhs or US dollars 7,000, but that is not where Girard Perregaux is positioning itself. At this price point, other watches like the Chopard Time Traveler 1 or the Jaeger LeCoultre Geophysic Universal Time are the apt competition for the 1966 WW.TC. Then of course there are the more expensive options from Patek, Vacheron and Lange. A watch that delivers what it promises without the fuss, yet upholding all the class and taste that one expects from a manufacturer. This is the Girard Perregaux 1966 Worldwide Time Control. Now, this watch is available with Ethos Watch Boutiques, which is India's largest chain of luxury watch boutiques, and they are also the sole retailers of Girard Perregaux in India. My heartfelt thanks to them for lending this watch in for review and showcase. If you like this video, please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel for a lot more informative watch videos. As always, thank you for watching.